some number of weeks ago on the Anthropic side. It kind of went under the radar, but it was a tool, I think it's called like exit chat. It's in all the Claude code, like the CLI now. So it's like if you start to abuse Claude, he has access to a tool called exit chat. It can totally close the chat on you. It has, the tool call exists.
Yeah,
it's a real tool call. So
What did you say to make it happen?
Oh, you got it?
a lot of stuff.
Yo. Oh, what's up, dude? You're in town. What am I doing? Oh, yeah. All right, I think this is what we're presenting today. Yeah, we're going to use this and probably, what is this? And probably some X. And some of this. Just have it open just in case. Testing. Okay, see, that should do it. Already? Did I put you to sleep already? Oh, I thought Noah was like falling asleep already. I was like, I just turned off the light. Do you work in like a super bright environment in your office space?
Pretty dark.
Yeah, for me it's full dark. Like I'm 18 years old again. Like I just turn off all the lights, close the blinds, go to the basement. Yeah. I'm curious, how does everybody here work in their day to day? Like, you guys.
It's not about the amount of light, it's about reducing the contrast. So if you're in a completely dark room with a bright screen, it's bad for your eyes. If you're in a bright room with a bright screen, it's fine. If you're in a dark room with a dark screen, it's fine. But when the whole room's dark, we're just looking at one thing.
Yeah.
It's not good.
True. Yeah.
Is that really true?
Of course, it's true. Your iris is going to get dry. Well, you're going to look over here, and it's going to get
It
really
depends
big.
on the eye camera.
You're going to look at the side over here, it's going to get really big, and it's going to get really small. Big, small, big, small, big, small. No, they're not. Usually it's nighttime, and it stays nighttime.
All right, what things should we jump into? We have our list of Slido stuff that was submitted. Some of it was from me. Yeah, I know you've added. I think it's probably just the two of us who've added stuff. And I think I know who this is. He's not here right now. It's okay.
I think if you open the popular tab, it shows all of them. It's just the recent. So yeah, this is.
There we go. All right, let's take it away. Let's just jump with that then. So, what is this? This is the Dex Horthy. Oh, and okay. So actually, let's go ahead and just start the meetup. And as per usual, which I always forget to say, just shout out. Like if there's something you want to talk about, some event that you want to bring up, shout it out. I don't really care. Throw it out in the air and we'll discuss it. All things are allowed to be discussed, and the room will determine its fate, if it truly should be or not. I'll sort of have a little bit of referee there, but like if it sounds lame, then we'll skip it. If not, we'll go with it. All right, so the first one, I can't even load the website. His website is vibe coded. That's why it's not working. Of all people,
Amazing, so nice.
or maybe he removed the video. No. Wow. Okay. So, well, we'll skip that. No, we won't skip it. So, he,
AI that works. So it's cool. It doesn't work.
did he put it on X? I'm pretty sure he did. I got that link because I asked him for it. And,
That's a nice bicycle.
huh? He did put it on X, but I didn't save it. And I know the link's there because I was like, where's the YouTube video? Like, I just want to grab your transcript, dude. So anyways, so let's try to talk about it. So Dex Horthy, oh, I remember. So they were in LA or San Francisco, I'm not sure. And they were, it seems like what he's doing, so this is the guy who invented the word context engineering, right? So he's known for that, guy with the mustache. I'm sure you've seen him if you've opened any up of the AI engineering YouTube videos. And he always has interesting takes. And there was, so they were in California, and they were like interviewing people and meeting up with people to just try to understand. I think the whole point was like, and I certainly want to know from everyone, I always want to pulse check. What is everyone doing? What does your setup look like? Why did you pick that? What's been your experience? And he was sort of reporting on that, where he's like, he went across, so he went to the heart of where all things are happening right now, and he's going around asking people, and he comes back and he's like, well, it turns out like everybody's doing something different. What everybody's doing setup wise, like what their agent harness is, what their computer setup is, what their company setup, it's all just different. And that was already just interesting to hear, right? No one has converged on like, do this. Like, I know us engineers love this whole thing about tell me the best practice and I'll throw everything else out. Just give me that. It's like I don't have to sort of think things through deeply. So that was interesting that he saw the non-convergence, and also that there were people like just going in totally different directions as well. So I thought that this would be interesting to discuss in many different lights. One, what have you heard? What have you heard online? Two, what are you doing? What do you have? What sort of setup do you have? And then there's some other topics that we can go into. As what we bring up, because part of that whole thing that he was out there for was like, who reads the code, who doesn't read the code. I know they were asking people this, and it's a mixed bag, a very valid mixed bag. People who just don't care anymore, and people who do for good reasons or not. I have no idea. So maybe what we can start with is the setup question. It's certainly the most interesting to me. Who's set up here? Who has a setup here that has just consistently changed over time and is willing to share what it's looked like over the ages? I say that as it's been years. It's probably been 1 year, but who is anybody willing to share? Like you were on this harness and moved to that one and so on. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Actually, I started with Cloud Code, and I abandoned it after some days, and I turned to Visual Code Studio. Now I'm trying to see what else can we do, because I have an SEO agency. So I was producing content, and after turning into the AI, instead of working 25 days for certain clients, producing content mainly in the backlines, now we have reduced this time to 5 days. So we can now, for the first time after 6 years, we can take 5 times more clients, because before that it wasn't doable. Whatever you do, you cannot produce so much content. You need more people need the training, etc. But the problem for me is that still with this setup, we have thousands of problems, and I don't know, I'm trying to find information with Cloud, the company itself, but the blog looks like to be a postgraduate research stuff from Harvard, something Berkeley at Harvard, the guy that was learning English mechanically. I think that AI is writing that.
Yeah.
And I cannot figure out what is that usability or educational purposes of that. For instance, AI is here for the business to make money. Why don't the company simplify something and says, look, here's how you can make money with that. First, you need this. Second, you need this. Third, you need this. And I spent thousands of hours in YouTube watching fancy videos, steal this, prompt that. This made me 100K in 17 hours. Steal that, eat this. This is obviously not the best. So, and another big problem I'm facing right now is memory.
What type of memory? What are we talking about here?
It's like my father has a stroke and he has better memory than Claude AI in such a
Sure.
Also, my grandma, we live together, she has dementia. And every 30 minutes she asks for bread.
Right.
And the main problem is that not enough memory to remember what we tell.
Yeah.
That you tell in the morning at 5 o'clock in the morning,
Yes.
wake up, and he's ready to work. At the 3 o'clock, she brings out something out of the blue.
Let's use that as a starting point then for the whole talk about setups and what you got going on. I'd love to hear from the whole room here on memory. Yes, go ahead.
I'd like to add on to that. I've been through distro hopping a lot of different harnesses and stuff, starting with Cursor, mixed with just plain prompting ChatGPT, and then going to Claude, and then trying OpenClaw, and now converging on Hermes, I guess, a bit, because it does seem to address the long-term memory aspect, at least since Carlin told me about Gbrain, and that now I rely on Pydantic AI quite a lot to build more task-specific kind of workflows, and Hermes can just hook into everything, basically.
Cool.
Which is, I guess, the way I find it convenient to have it across mobile and desktop and terminal,
Yeah.
depending on where I'm at or what I'm doing. Yeah.
Awesome. I'd love to hear a little bit on the memory side, and then also it's all right. So that's been your. What's interesting is that and maybe it's the case for everybody. We jump from harness to harness setup, sort of as the harness is our very personal, singular thing you hold with you, as opposed to I'm curious if there's someone who has I use 3 different harnesses every single day, right? But or when you're constantly moving from one harness to another, you're dropping one in place of another. So it's not like an addition, right?
And also losing part of what you've set, your setup, your bespoke customizations, or the memories.
Yeah.
Whereas Gbrain seems to be something that can plug in as an MCP to existing codecs or Claude, so it seems like a safe way to try it out.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, that's also ideal. You want your memory system to be set up in a way. I have this as a huge question in my head. Can you is your memory system pluggable, so that when you jump to another harness or whatever, you just plug it right in, or what's that whole thing look like? I'm still very curious. I'm also really interested Hermes. So also, can you add what's day-to-day life like in this world? Are you doing full business operations? Are you doing half coding, half?
Yeah, also. So coding and brainstorming and planning. But I'm not really the Hermes expert. I've just recently tried it out. But I think OpenClaw already proved product market fit for this concept of a personal assistant. Everyone, or many people, wanted that. But it's still a work in progress, I guess.
Yeah. And could I ask, which model on Hermes are you primarily using?
I tend towards the Chinese providers for cost reasons.
Which one?
For coding, GLM, and then I have reviews done through Alibaba's Quen models, typically. So to have a bit of a adversarial with different grade.
And are you doing inference directly from them, or are you going to some third-party provider who is?
I'm with them directly.
Directly.
But they have subscriptions.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's, similar to do like a coding plan.
Awesome. Cool. That's really cool. That's like so actually your stack is really a full like open source stack.
Yeah.
So you remember how in the industry we used to have like these terms like the oh my god, I can't remember anymore, Jamstack and like all these other weird acronyms that would describe your, you know, like MySQL, PHP, what the hell was it called? LAMP? Yeah, like throughout the ages we've had all these these acronyms for stacks, and it's now occurring to me that you actually could have either like this hybrid, full open source. That's actually really interesting. I'd love to hear anyone else in the room. Who else? Shout it out. What's your setup like? What you had? Why you changed? What sucks?
For
What's
me,
good?
I started like reading the code with Cursor, where I would be coding something specific, I'd review all the results, I'd change based on that. And slowly over time, it's been getting more like getting into reason about the results and not reading the code. Like I'm setting up test environments that I'm saying, hey, we need to do this, try against this, set up your own VPS, test against the VPS. And so I've gone from like reading the code to not reading the code, but reading the results. And as Claude has gotten more obfuscated in its output, I've been using the HTML artifacts a lot because I find that I just tell it to do that and I say like, I don't understand, make me a diagram. And then I can understand the diagram. So I'm getting more abstracted, but also I'm giving it more leeway to test things out itself before it comes back to me with the next turn.
And you've grown a lot of trust in this because part of the what I'm finding is like when you're going down the path of using Claude models versus literally non-Claude models, that's literally my distinction, and I'd love to hear other people's take, but like when you go down the path of Claude models, it's very much one of those, you know, those events where they sort of scam people to get into a room and tell them to close their eyes and fall into, there's someone behind them to catch them. I mean, it's almost like you sort of, the more you accept that in the Claude path, actually, your results are, they change drastically, right? Because it's like the more you try to force the model to do stuff, the worse your life is going to be. As they would always say with the Claude models, like you want to now basically tell it the least amount of things. You just want to give it your intention. Do you think that's
Well,
true, or
it's not so much giving over trust as making sure it has an environment to iterate inside of.
100%? That is like put a gold star on self-verification for AI.
Yeah.
Also, you said spinning up VPS.
Yes.
So what are you using? Because it sounds like then you have Claude using tools that can check.
So
Claude can check himself.
I'm trying to do a security testing workflow. So I'm like, try this software in this configuration. I want you to build a scanner that can find this problem and go and reproduce the problem on your own VPS. I built a little harness that lets it spin up a VPS that automatically kills itself after 8 hours. So then even if my Claude session dies or I forget to close it, it doesn't cost me much money.
Yeah.
And I just give it the API key and it can do as many of those at once as long as they're only small instances and test against them.
Got it. So Cursor and Claude, open source. Go ahead.
Can you say more about what you meant about the iterate?
So say I'm making a security scanner, I'll say first set up the software itself on a VPS, and then you have to find the result you set up. You know, so you can find it any way you want, and you can iterate on that and iterate on that. But when we come back, like you set up this software here, I want you to tell me that here's the utility that detects this. You know, so it can go in its own environment and keep scanning against that and go, oh, that failed. Oh, that has 4 results, not 8 results. But I know there's 8 results.
So instead of you inspecting the iterations yourself,
Yeah.
letting it do it.
An approach I've been exploring is the use of domain-specific languages. When I hear most people talk about sort of harnesses, they talk about what harnesses they're using, what models they're using, and so forth. But it's always outputting Python or JavaScript or Rust or whatever. And you know, one of the tricky things about that is that like there's a huge state space of all the things that you can do in Python.
Yeah.
And so what I've done, a project that I've been working on is Like we built our own domain-specific language that just gives you the constructs for what our workflows need to do. And so instead of having an agent generate a Python script, we generate it in, we have a generated script in our DSL, and that is very much tied to the domain. There's no file system or access, there's no network access, it's not a general purpose language. And that constrains it to just be able to express the kinds of things that we want the agent to be able to express. And then, you know, you can put in things like type checking, giving feedback to the agent, have a big other errors, and you know, runtime observation and that you can't really get so easily with mainstream
Yeah.
languages. So I think that's an approach that I think is good as a long-term strategy. Models are going to change, harnesses are going to change, but I found that taking that approach, okay, well, let's kind of build up the foundations a bit.
Sure.
Let's consider them. I think
Yeah.
that's a
This is
very
fascinating. So I'd love to hear a little bit more on what this DSL. So you're describing DSLs, right? Like what sort of pipeline are we looking at here? Like first, like is it some YAML or JSON DSL? Like how is it positioned? Is it deterministically being processed?
It's a functional language. It's called Rex. Actually, if you go to rexlang.ai,
Rex, R-E-X?
rexlang.ai. No, the URL, yeah. Yeah, so it's a real functional programming language. You write your workflows like you write code. A lot of workflow systems like Apache Airflow and Temporal and things like that, they're based on DAGs, where you define a set of tasks and data dependencies, and that's a very restricted model. So this is a full functional programming language, and because it's a functional language, it's free of side effects. Every expression is pure, and that means you can automatically detect parallelism.
Right.
Whenever there's expressions that are independent of each other, you can evaluate those. And so like in what our workflows do is they submit jobs to HPC cluster services for running computational chemistry simulations.
Cool.
And by using that approach, you don't have to worry about threads. You don't have to worry about synchronization primitives. You don't have to worry about like how the data gets stored or any of that. It's an abstraction language. I think is much more powerful than just building an API or a library on top of existing.
Yeah.
What do you do though if you want side effects?
So there's no side effects. So this is not a language that you would want to use if you need side effects. Sorry?
Print is not available. I mean,
No print. No side effects. So they're an output.
Yeah.
Right? You run your whatever it is you need to do, you run it, and then you get up. And so for certain types of scientific applications, that's more what makes sense. It's not a general purpose. It's like very much like Haskell. So it's not a general purpose language for writing.
Yeah. It's fully immutable, I imagine.
Fully immutable, content address storage.
Super cool.
It's interesting. I haven't heard. This hasn't come up in the.
So it's built for a drug discovery platform, and where basically we have an agent, and users talk to the agent, and they say, I want to run this experiment on this protein, or I want to put this set, or whatever they find. And so the agent will create the workflow definition, and then that gets run under the instruction. And so you have an end user interaction with an agent who generates code in the DSL. That code gets run, the user sees the results.
Interesting.
So is the code being run as code or is it being run as context engineering?
There's a once the code is generated, it's just a normal interpreter.
So it's running locally.
It runs on the back end. I mean, you can run globally, but it's designed to run back on the system.
If I could summarize it in a nice way, instead of letting the agent generate code, they created this DSL, like some buffers, so the agent can create like higher level building blocks, and it doesn't have to deal with the code, and it's a bit more deterministic.
It's still writing code, but the code is in the high level DSL.
Yeah, so the agent only generates this,
Yes.
and it gets like a bit more, like less granular building blocks, so there are less bugs and less, random stuff happening, it has
It's
this.
working with a very restricted set of things.
Yeah.
So basically saying that this is your outputs can only be within this type of output.
Yes.
Question is, does it always do that, or does it innately know this, or do you say this is like a library or run book to it?
No, this is we've been using this on our computational chemistry platform. So it's been running in production.
Wow, this is so interesting. That is so interesting. It's like, we haven't had someone walk in here and sort of explain, anything in this area. So I love hearing that. That's awesome.
I have a book recommendation. It's called The Structure and Interpretation of Computer Programs. It's like 40 years old.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
what's that?
It's Structure and Interpretation of Computer Programs, SICP.
Yeah.
It's a famous book. It talks about linguistic abstraction. We know how to build functions, we know how to build classes. Building a language is just another type of abstraction.
Yep. Totally. Totally.
It's specific to functional languages, right? SICP.
SICP, no. Well, it focuses on functional languages, but the lessons there are
Lessons there, right?
the lessons of the book are applicable to many different types of languages. So it does talk about mutability and state and objects as well.
It has a
Always
very
useful.
good use case. I mean, it's not just for it could be theoretically good for any kind of identity development. Sometimes I really don't like the code that the agent is generating, and I would like to give it this DSL, like this is how you do stuff. I mean, these kind of things are the basics that repeat themselves, and this is how you do stuff. So I don't want to generate code, just use this and this and these building blocks and give me that, more abstract workflow, and only generate code when you really need to generate the code, but otherwise, for this repetitive stuff, let's do it this way, it's deterministic, it's readable, I don't have to review it all the time, and it makes sense for everything.
Yeah.
I think the key, one tricky part, if you're doing it in your own language, like models aren't going to be trained.
Yeah, this was
That's why
always
So
a
the
big
key
problem.
getting it work is giving it lots of examples.
Yeah.
So we've got like a whole directory full of example code that does different things, and it can look at that and it goes, oh yeah, I can see that looks like Haskell, make it Haskell. I'll just like figure out how this particular.
Yeah. So you're sort of relying on the generalization of the model, which means that you're probably using the biggest model you can find in that case to
Yes.
that makes sense. It's basically like, what are we talking about, Fable? Actually, probably not, but like you can just.
I'm not sure what, because there's somebody else that's actually working on it, so I'm not sure what. I think it's like one of the recent.
Yeah, makes sense.
But like we've done it in a generic manner.
So I'm just curious from this use case, because my area of focus is the term boundary and information from a lot of text as a prompt. And being able to have output not as a wall of text, but as a DSL, and maybe using an LSP so that the model does that, how to read the data, there might be a use case for what you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And every time I'm sitting there using Codex and it's telling me the commands instruction, and I see it using something like set or grep or curl with a regular expression, I'm just like, oh my god. Don't you know what an abstract syntax tree is? There's these coding tools, they're working with text. They should be working with the structure of the programs at the semantic level. And compilers 101 is the first thing you do is you parse that into code, and then you can infer things from the structure of it. But I see Codex all the time. It's just like running set to do this change. And I think agents should be working behind it.
I was using Ruby for
a question because I'm not sure if I understand all this complicated work. So this is like cloud code workflows, but more advanced?
It's, I don't know what cloud code workflows, I don't know what.
Then you have some deterministic workflow in JavaScript file.
Yes.
So like more deterministic what will happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a program, right? I mean, you can call it a workflow or a script or whatever. But
Dynamic workflow is just an implementation of DSL.
it's, you have if statements, you have looping logic, you have, people apply all these different terms to it, but it's just a language.
So it's saving work for the models,
Yeah.
so it uses fewer tokens, I would imagine it saves a lot of time.
Yeah.
So I've done something similar with the DSL, that, but its output is to generate graphics. So it's a lot of side effects here. But Claude was very good at, I said, put pure code, pure functions here, side effects here. They did a great job of separating and integrating this language for me. So it's all what you ask it to do in a way that you want it to work. And I found it really helpful to have a DSL that says these are the only verbs you know, these are the nouns you know. That's it.
And it's a very powerful way of giving it constraints.
Yeah. Other setups?
I'd like to share.
Oh, go ahead.
I mean, it's an interesting question because I never thought about the evolution or thinking back, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And now it's like, because I come from a consulting background, and a consultant's job is to solve other people's problems, right? So you have to understand, well, what the hell is your problem? You say your problem is this, but is that really your problem? Let me figure that out, and then let me figure out a way, like some framework, some way of looking at it, some approach, where I'm going to give you an answer that you couldn't have come up with, right? That's the job. And so before AI, I was using Obsidian, and I was gravitated towards that because it's like your thinking notes, right? You're externalizing your thinking, and then you're looking at it, so that you can look at it and say, well, here's the problem, or here's whatever it is. So it's like a way to do that, right? And there's a couple things on that I learned was, the Zettelkasten, the wiki, right? The backlinks and the wiki, the power of that. And you can get really nerdy on that in terms of the Zettelkasten, which is another thing, right? And then the other part was the built intrinsically into Obsidian is the value of the file and the sovereignty of the file, basically, because it's a markdown. So if it goes away, you always have your data, and the idea that's your IP. It's the most important thing ever, is all that shit that's coming out of your head, yes, that you're thinking through, because it's just coming out at that time, and you have to capture it. It's like capturing lightning in a bottle, right? And your practice of thinking, you have to be able to capture that into a system, and that's actually the most important thing. You can never lose that, and that should never be held hostage. And so then when AI comes, I'm like, oh my God, this is an amazing thing. I use ChatGPT, I can think through, it can help me as a thinking partner, it can think with me, right? I can spar with it. But then it's like, well, it's really limited to this chat. So, oh wait, I'm fast forwarding. Oh wait, it can write code? So now I can write what I was beginning to do was a harness. Like it can do prompt chains. So I built like a tool to do prompt chains, and it never went anywhere because it was just too hard to manage, right? And I'm not a developer. So then I like put that aside for a while, and then you're like using Claude, using all this other stuff, but it's like, it always felt wrong because I could feel like I'm gonna get locked in. And the most important thing is I can't get locked into all this data on the architecture level.
Yeah, totally.
And now fast forward, I'm just saying, I have Hermes. It's built to be agnostic. It's built in the same spirit, I think, as Obsidian was, yeah, in terms of its posture for open source. And then now it's like, I've created GBrain, I've used GBrain, and it's basically now the WikiLinks way more organized.
Way more organized.
Yeah, because what happened was that I would have this Obsidian, like this huge stuff of nodes that are interconnected. It would just be a fucking mess. There's no way I can manage it.
Yeah.
And it would just fall under its own weight. But now if the AI is actually pruning and managing and stuff, it's actually being able to surface and connect things. So it's like a very powerful thinking tool for strategy. But then now, I sort of gave up on developing, but now it's getting so mature that that's getting folded into Hermes, where I just say, So it's like skills, you know, and like DAGs that I can just invoke by saying it. Where before I was like trying to, you know, build it. I can just say it. I can just build like a regular framework for it. So, you know, that's really, really powerful now, because now I know at my fingertips I can just have a Claude Code or a Codex or etc. as a downstream engine to build whatever I want to build. But actually now the problem is I haven't had my thinking properly, like so where I'm like, this is really worth building. So I'm stuck on a thing where I'm like, in a way I'm creating a system, trying to figure out what's worth building, in a way, yes? And I'm still wrestling with that, where there isn't like 1,000 things worth building, at least in my world.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. A lot of exploration there.
Yes.
Also interesting, Hermes and GBrain. So that's actually, I'm now curious because now I've heard this. How many other folks are on Hermes, either as a daily driver, as critical, as a supplement to their day-to-day? Who else is using Hermes? Like, oh wow.
Oh wow,
Shit.
it's replaced Lobsville now.
Yeah, that's really
It used to be
unexpected.
OpenClaw 3 months ago.
I'd love to hear, yeah.
Yeah, one more thing that I realized just with the change of the setups is that I'm really separating now, trying to ship a product and messing around with all the fun, cool, new, shiny toys we get all the time, every day. So I actually try to get just booked with one tool. So before obviously it was a lot of Claude, now it's a lot of Codex. And that's where I actually just throw money at and like get as many subscriptions as I need and just keep it going. And then I just clearly separate my messing around with new harnesses and local AI and these kind of things, because otherwise if I mix this up, I'm not actually shipping that much and it's not cool. So, and the other thing is when you think about it is where do all these frontier labs optimize for? They don't necessarily optimize for actually people like us who are maybe more technical and who love coding or like programming and figuring hard shit out or whatever. They optimize for people who just say, oh, I want this, I need that, right? So the biggest improvement will actually come probably in that area. So if you're totally focused on like taking most out of the momentum that we have now with AI, it probably makes sense to also push in that direction. So I basically try to, maybe I'm actually now more sloppy in this sense, but I'm actually a lot more productive.
Yeah.
Because I don't get hung up so much in optimizing my setup. When I wait for Codex or whatever, I still have thought a little bit more stupid stuff, but when I wait for them, I'll just fire up DeepSeek harness and let my local AI code some bullshit or benchmark something or whatever. That's cool, you know, that's like my fun thing on the side. But I work with the big tools in this way. And then the only other takeaway that became obvious is I spend much more time creating meta skills that create actually the skills that I will need. So, and abstracting this higher and higher, creating meta skills that can actually create meta skills. Because everything becomes so skill-based and it helps a lot. Because even the big models, they still get lazy or forget a lot of things. But once I have this kind of like maybe 3 layers of skill building, I actually can make the whole structure a lot more solid.
3 layers of skill building. What that's a
lot.
yeah, you said meta skill and then 3 layers. Well, what is
What
that?
does it mean? So I mean, the first skill might just build the outline of a meta skill. How I usually like to build these meta skills.
Sure.
The second one is much more concrete. That's actually building a skill maybe for animation routine for a project. And it has like, so I have this generalized skill for building meta skills that basically sets up the frameworks and helps you to build a meta skill for a much more specific thing. And then basically the lowest level are the skills that just execute. I need a happy animation for my ESP32 AI tech project. And then, this runs the happy animations and I can create hundreds of the rest of it.
I see. So you have them broken up into three. Okay, I understand. Oh, that's interesting.
Are you using the Hermes skill libraries?
Yeah, like I'm actually moving away a little bit from Hermes, but I do believe this because I just don't understand it good enough, and I don't spend enough time with it. So
The latest release is kind of broken. It's probably our first like OpenClaw level, like the fucking bot shit. I don't know. People like bot stuff, but
What is
like,
that? Can you explain?
Oh, so you know Grokbot,
Yes.
right? So
Which is awesome, by the way.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Like, to your point, Grokbot is like in that direction of like, I don't know what the hell this thing is doing, but it works. It's awesome.
So Technium basically, like as soon as that came out, people were like, "Oh, I like this." What
Like their little spats.
Yeah. So the way Hermes has been lately is, well, one, can't hire enough people fast enough. Like if you're like the best developer in the room, send me a referral. I'll send it to him. But if you're not, don't message me, please. I get a lot of those. Like it's like, hey, I've never developed before, but can I, send my resume to you? I get like once a week, like same. I'm like, no. But if you are really good, send it to me because the team's trying to hire, and like it's actually really challenging because there's so many developers that are like AI psychosis. That like, so Technium is really, he's like, you're like really smart, but like you literally are like people have lost their minds. Like I'm like, and so you can't hire them. Also because some people's like Twitters and stuff. But anyway, I digress. So Hermes has reached this point now where it's kind of just whatever's doing really well. It's OpenClaw had the same problem. Like it was just kind of adopting stuff all of a sudden. So Hermes is still really good, but like this last release and the release before that, like whatever everyone else is doing, we just rush out. And so this last release, 3 days ago, is exactly that. So the Grokbot just copied everything Grokbot did and just pushed all of that into Hermes as a new plugin. It's fucking broken, but it's cool actually because I didn't check out test out Grokbot. I mean, it works. It's really cool. I like how it works, but it's. Huh?
One question that I have is that holds me back. So I've been using Hermes for a while, and I always thought I need to really get into extending it and whatever. But how? Because you're so deep into this, how good is Hermes working out of the box right now?
Out of the box, not good. No. So for most of you, you wouldn't notice. Probably.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're not a good developer. I'm just saying like if you like, 'cause I run a lot of people's stacks and I look at it and like they don't think about the configuration. So like if you're using Codex out of the box or Cloud Code out of the box, it's probably fine. But like there's just right now it's hit this point where OpenClaw had the same problem where it's got so many configurations, so many iterations you can do to it. Like you can highly optimize it, but if you don't know how to optimize it, then it's okay, right? So I don't use Hermes as my daily driver outside of like. It's like my Obsidian, so like thinking, manager, high-level, middle management agents, but they don't actually code out of it.
Yes.
I still use Codex and Cloud Code for like heavy coding, but like everything gets filtered through Hermes system. Literally, I think I posted a TikTok, I posted a TikTok this morning, like 2 a.m. Like you get this like middle layer of management.
Yeah.
And that's where my Hermes is.Ey're all middle managers.
And you use a Hermes to
Control all the other systems. Yeah.
But would you be willing, maybe in the WhatsApp group or wherever everyone is, just to drop like a basic good stack to start with, like maybe
For Hermes?
Getting started with Hermes.
For Hermes, like the lossless memory and all this.
Oh yeah.
But just if you drop a list, like a basic stack, like where you think, that's a decent starting point.
So I will. So basically, yeah, I can. It's just configurations because there's like 100 configurations. Like, and I'll tell you, my stack is I don't have any of the approvals or guardrails or any of that because my agents are the guardrails in between, right? So like I have the layers of agents, so there's no reason. Like if Luna wants to do something destructive, it has ask, right? So like I've never had a problem anymore of anything breaking or deleting anything because there's just layers of agents that check in on each other, right? So that's my biggest change. Is like there's so many configurations for guardrails for Hermes. Like it's another one of those like multiple layers of stuff. Like I'd say my customers. So I have a lot of customers. We were on OpenClaw. I finally moved all of them over to Hermes. Most of them hated Hermes level of approvals and like the guardrails because it just asked too much. OpenClaw would just be very like same model but very confident. Like I'm going to do it. Hermes is like because its prompt is a little different on the harness. It's like it's a little less sure, a little less confident. It asks 10 times. It has a tool for questions that's very like specific, so it asks you a lot more questions. But my customers have gotten used to it after I just turned off all the guardrails, and then it only uses questions as a guardrail, so they like it okay. But most people still preferred how OpenClaw would just get shit done, right? Like it would just, because you just turn off the guardrails and it would just go do stuff. Even Codex is added in guardrails now, and it's kind of a headache sometimes. But that's overall. I mean, Yeah, Hermes. I'll post in the chat if you remind me tomorrow. Just a configuration file of like, here's the 100 things to turn off and on, and then like the Hermes memory is actually really good. It does score better than Codex on the general side, just because like it's Codex doesn't have good memory. It's like built in. So, but it's still running on Codex, right? If you're running on a Codex model, so just the threads. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, a lot of people still, I guess they use Hermes a lot now. So just this week was kind of a messy. So anyways, the bots, it's exactly what Grok has.
Yeah.
It's Grokbot, like just copied, but it's sloppily copied. So it's just kind of like a UI layer and a plugin on top of Hermes.
So what are we expecting Hermes to sort of collapse and fall apart in a few months if they're moving at this?
No, they have like $60 million. The problem is they just can't hire developers fast
Look,
enough.
the money is irrelevant.
Oh, yeah.
OpenClaw had money and look what happened.
Well, OpenClaw only had like,
started as garbage. Like it started as like bot-coded.
yeah,
I think the Hermes team's a lot more
structure.
They're like,
But
they train
it
models.
sounds like they're heading in a direction of, because look, part of development is about being disciplined and about like, if you sort of incur tech debt knowingly, and knowing it's there and knowing that you're going to maybe remove it or something, but if you're just like, shit, I got to stay on top of things and just constantly release, to me that's like you're heading towards disaster.
I think
Yeah,
I agree with you on that because it was
The one thing that stood out to me was like when Grokbot came out and it took off, right? The first thing they did was make a clone of Grokbot, like this new
Hermes bot.
The Hermes bot, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like, that was way too fast and way too...
It was
more
literally
rapid,
overnight.
Which means it's probably pretty filled with tech debt and issues.
I would
So
say
imagine.
I would say that the problem is like OpenClaw kind of kept Hermes in check because OpenClaw was so sloppy, so vibe coded at the end, right? Hermes was like, oh, we are the not sloppy, we're the not mess. But without like OpenClaw like mattering anymore, then it's like, okay, well we can be a little sloppy, we can be a little messy, and I mean, it works. I mean, for most
I've never seen
cases,
a Hermes update break.
yeah.
Which is what
Well,
OpenClaw's famous
I would
for.
say this update is the one that will break a lot. I've shipped like 50 PRs in the last 3 days because of it. So because it was just so sloppy, just thrown on top of it. Most of it being like, I mean, it's still great. Like remote gateway is still great, all the other features. But this the last release, excellent, really stable. This release 3 days ago for the bot, really awful. There's been 3,000 commits since 3 days ago because of the bugs introduced by trying to convert to Grokbot.
Really?
So if you're a Hermes user, start planning your migrations.
What's
That's
the
what I'm
next
hearing.
Hermes?
Yeah. Well, that's the other question. What's the next big one or interesting one?
Coming out this year.
I'm still really curious to hear about memory systems. I've heard Gbrain already.
Gbrain, we've worked on for like 3 months. I finally got Gary to do releases. So I've been bitching about it for months. So don't use GStack, but GStack will be fixed next week. So I got Gary, we're working on getting GStack fixed. Because the problem we've said with GStack is like it injects in every single prompt, boil the ocean. Like it's like the worst fucking thing you could ever tell Soul is like boil the, and every single prompt, don't do that. And then Gbrain's really good now because of what you were talking about earlier, which is it's agnostic to any system, any harness, and you can just MCP it. So I highly recommend Gbrain. It beats out almost every other company brain system. It's and it's highly worked on. Like all the YC companies use it now, and I mean it's not really a memory system, but the thing is, what we found is that ripgrep beats out most memory systems with the newest models anyways. Like if you have at least RAM, like if you have at least 2 gigabytes of RAM that you can run ripgrep on and let it just fucking scan your shit, then it competes with almost every memory system. It gets, it beats out most.
The file system and the repo is king. This has been the case since fucking last year. It's certainly my whole direction. But anyways, I want to hear more setups. I'd love to poll the room, query the room. Who else wants? Does anybody else want to share? Oh yes, I know you did some interesting transitions. You're now on Oh My Pie. I'd love to hear what do you want to share?
So firstly, I think it's very important to understand that people here have really different use cases. It's
Yes.
comparing apples to oranges. It's not just people doing stuff differently. I mean, one person is like scientific research, one person is like business operations. Very different stuff. So it's not like who's using the best tool. It's like who's using the best tool for their use case. For me, I'm focused on engineering and usually the kind of clients that I have are the kind of clients that require a bit more precise engineering. So I used to work with fintech startup in the past, and just yesterday I had this potential client reach out to me, and they're doing a trading platform, and they want me to work with it. So like the kind of stuff that requires precision and much more focus on code quality and readability and maintainability than some other setups where you really can afford to not care about it.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to optimize my setup for these kind of things. I'm trying to come up with less shiny toys or deterministic workflows, more, basic feature loop that just works. I mean,
Yeah.
plan, code, verification, review that just gives me something stable and high quality. So right now I work on my Pi. It's nice, it's good, it has some good features, but I'm not super strict about it. I might move to deep sea harness when it becomes more stable, because it has a very good level of control, and it gives you some very good tools for bugging what's happening in the harness. It's very important for me to debug what's happening in the harness. So when I run a prompt, I want to see what the agent is doing and why it's thinking a certain way and why it's generating this kind of stop and not what I wanted. And so I can rewind it and adjust my prompting. And
You're saying Deep Sea Harness is letting you do that?
yeah, so this card is one of the nice things about it. It comes with built-in observability layers, so you can see exactly what the agent is doing in every step. You can, do checkpoints and rewinds, and it's very debuggable. So it's very. I think they designed it in mind with harness engineering for people who want to treat their harness as a, first-class.
Engineering interface.
It's not like something that Anthropic or OpenAI did for me and it works. It's more like my own workflow, so I can decide what happens there. I can debug it and I can optimize it for my own use case. So that's the direction I like.
Yeah.
I might move there when it becomes a bit more stable, but right now, all my Pi is good. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's good. And I'm really focused on the basics. The real basics, I just spent like a bunch of days just getting a really, really good spec format, which means, whatever model I throw in the mix is going to produce stable, readable format that I like, and I can review, and I can easily identify red flags, and I don't have to depend on, whatever the next model from OpenAI or Anthropic wants to give me. It's more like, this is my workflow, this is my format, so I can easily review it. I put a lot of focus on code quality, so I just did a whole big setup with SonarQube. SonarQube, if someone doesn't know, it's static analyzer for code quality that gives a lot of metrics like complexity, and I don't even know where to start. There's a lot of stuff. So complexity, for example, would be like if the agent generated some huge slop and a lot of convoluted code that does a lot of things inside one function, it would identify it, it would flag it, it would figure the deterministic algorithm would let the agent know, it just doesn't pass the metric, so the agent has to adjust and separate stuff. So I'm currently in the process of setting that up, and we're getting some good gates on my code quality. So whatever my harness generates is just going to be great. So when I review it, it just looks great, and I don't have to adjust it so much. So this is basically my focus right now. It's just engineering. And
what was the name for that capability?
SonarQube. Cube with Q.
Yeah.
It has an open source version. It's a bit heavy. It's not like one of those linters that you just install. It's like a whole setup. You need a client and a server, and it's Docker based. It's quite big. So I let my agent do it, and it took like 2 hours just install and configure that thing, and it created this sandbox side script and mode side script, and it was a huge setup just for this static analog, but I think it's worth it. That's it basically.
Yeah.
It's very focused on what I need, and it's not the shiniest setup. I don't have a use case for Hermes or other tools like that, but it's just what I need.
Yeah, so you've gone down the path of like customizing it fully for your specific use case, and it's not like there's different levels of grabbing off the shelf, right? And so yours is like more very, very, very customized. I can see that. And then you also brought up deep sea harness, which is also one of the topics that I wanted to talk about today. Did anybody try deep sea harness by any chance? And would love to share? I'd love to tell us your.
So yeah, so deep sea harness, I just ran a bunch of local models on it, and it just overnight it completed actually a 7-hour coding task. So I think so I can't really speak in depth or something, but I think it feels really awesome. It feels lightweight. It's great with local models. Also, when you look at benchmarks, a lot of people say they actually get really good performance with local models on either Pi or on deep sea harness.
Yeah.
So it seems to be like those two seem to be favored. And other than that, I do want to keep it around for actually a long time, because when I see how much I settled now, like I moved away from cloud and settled on Codex, and how powerful it is to really understand, like work with one system, like even more in depth. So I want to, I'm really hoping deep sea harness becomes like something I keep around for a year or something like that, and extend as well. So I think the coming week I will get into like really fine tuning it. But I mean, it makes so much sense, right? Like it's like almost like WordPress back in the day or something. It's super easy to extend, and it might be something that's actually around for quite a while.
And just curious, like, do you see deep sea harness as? I love that you sort of referenced it to WordPress or compared it to WordPress. I'm just curious, and this is for the room. To answer to the room, like, would you do business operations with the deep sea harness? Do you think that would be a good use case, or is it purely just engineering based? I would love. What would be your assessment, and anything else's?
Yeah, so I think this could become one of my central like management. I look for local AI, mostly for local AI, to do all my tasks on one harness, and basically therefore I build it out.
So you could see it as becoming a daily driver. Is that right?
Absolutely, but I don't think I would daily drive local AI for a long time. I'm a lot into local AI to just understand what's possible and where things are going.
Yeah.
Because that gives me creativity to actually ship code that might benefit from local AI in the future. So
yeah. And you.
For me, it's like I have a bad feeling about Anthropic and OpenAI on the long-term survival of this company, and I see DeepSeek much more long-term. And for me, I see Anthropic and OpenAI as building my system now, and I see myself changing for running the system with DeepSeek harness and open source models or something like this. Because you don't especially need very strong models to run agents and do tasks that are already very set up. So me, I'm building a system that is agnostic about the harness, so I can run any harness on my system, and this way I hope in the next months I can change it quickly from Anthropic and OpenAI system to full harness.
Oh wow! So you're committed to that direction.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
I literally switched from a standalone product that uses a harness inside of the product into individual standalone mini apps, let's call them, that are harness agnostic. Like if you made something of value, let's say a deterministic way for an agent to work, just make it work with any harness, and then you don't have to headache and like constantly shifting and moving around beneath you. You just focus on your deterministic solution to the problem.
Because when you think about it, all these systems have the same fundamentals. So if you stabilize these fundamentals and you make like an abstraction layer between all the harness in your system, you'll be able to run any harness on your system. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Well, I wonder. I mean, I truly wonder. I'd love to hear from people if that's actually like, can you swap in and out, or do you run into problems?
Yeah, just one more thing about this part. I think what the frontier models companies don't understand either is intelligence is something personal. And we saw this with the Mac Minis, right? Like, yo, this is mine, right? Like the ownership. So I believe they don't understand this, like how personal and intelligent it is, and how weird all of us probably already feel when somebody takes it away, right? So that's why I believe like having your own setup, or even now, if there's like a Quen cybersecurity model, right? The new one, the local ones, I try to just keep it. You know, they might take it away from us at some point. You know, so I think this is important to also understand when you build a product. This will be a trend also that will arise in general public at some point.
I think it's less that the tech companies don't understand. It's that if your job as a company is to, like, it's like, why would I make a dishwasher that lasts 100 years, right? Like, why would I give you something and you never pay for it and I don't make any money? Their job is to extract value.
But it will come up for normal people as well. And you know, you still have these people who write on Sam Altman posts, 4-0 human, 4-0 back, right? So like that, you know, so people get so attached and they will want to own it. And I think, I don't know.
That's where mafia is coming. Look up the light bulb mafia, right? Like tech companies will eventually, you know, at least in the U.S. side, they try to work with the government and everything else to prevent you from having access to those things. Because how can they extract value if you have your own Mac Mini?
I mean, this is what David Sachs just said. I'm not a big fan of the guy, but whatever. He said that really now open source regulation is coming in the U.S. and he was the AI czar for Trump, so I guess he might know a thing or two. So that's crazy. But,
Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned about all the weird shit we hear coming out, and what's going to happen, and what do we do? Sort of playing the game of, you know, if A happens, what the hell do we do? If B happens, what do we do? Ian and I have kind of wargamed this a little bit, and yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. It's all I don't even know how to step into the whole entire topic, but maybe we shouldn't.
I have a question over here. You guys are doing the micro apps, right? So basically, what I'm hearing is you're building modules, right, that are harness agnostic. So whatever harness is, you can plug it in. Yes. Now, I'm assuming you're already doing that in the Claude Code days and before DeepSeek harness. Do you feel that DeepSeek harness, because its posture, its whole like architecture, everything is a plugin, right? Does that make it more viable? Does it make it like 3 times better or same? Is it, like how much of a difference is it now? Because you already have a modular thing, right? Does it really change the game in terms of your architecture?
So in general, from my perspective, I didn't even look into it yet, to DeepSeek harness, because I was first doing these things for OpenClaw, then I was doing it for Hermes, and at the end of the day, I realized that if your product is well spec'd out, if your API is good, if your actions are kind of always the same, then it's just a matter of what's the translation layer that you have to apply in order to plug into this new harness, and what does the skill look like? And that's it. It's just 2 things. And you can literally write a script for your AI to just develop these blocks into different systems.
Yeah, but is there a cost difference now between that and using DeepSeek harness, right? Because DeepSeek harness is saying, look, I'm going to remove all friction from that because it's going to be like, you know, first class. Like the plugin, everything's a plugin, so you're not going to break anything when you hook into my system. You can go as deep as possible, right?
So I think you need to add an abstraction layer between what you build and the way you see interface with their harness, right? That's what you mean?
Yeah, well, I'm just saying you have these modules anyways.
Yes.
You can connect it to Claude Code if you want or whatever.
Yeah.
But when you say, oh, now I have DeepSeek harness, are you saying, wow, it's 10 times easier now to integrate? You know, it's so much smoother. It's so much, or like nothing. What is the difference?
The point for me is like it's open source, it's free, and I can I have more chances that this project will stay for the next year than code and Codex. That's why I add this system to my system.
For me, there is no change.
That's no change, right?
No.
Because I don't see Anthropic and OpenAI survive like 2 to 5 years. And for me, it's like it's guaranteed that I can continue to use AI despite this company disappears or this this harness brings too much restrictions, or they ban me because I use Bitcoin in a bad way or whatever. You know what I mean? So
Watermark your stuff.
yeah. I want to guarantee that I have three solutions instead of one or two.
And what must be true for DeepSeek to go on for 10 years is that there's enough developers who basically work on it in an open source way, right?
And also something also about the privacy of the data, because everything I send to Anthropic today, I know it's finished in the CIA or something like this. So probably it's better to have another provider than DeepSeek or something like this who has zero data retention or even encryption that means that I can retain my data. For me, I don't care, but if I customer or pay, I don't want my data to go somewhere. I don't agree with what I mean.
You bring up this question that I actually want to ask the room. I'd love to hear how people think about this, because I have never really thought about it at all, which is how far out should we be thinking in terms of like, I'm thinking 1 year out or 2 years out or 5 years out, like, oh, I'm building things in this direction because I'm anticipating in 5 years. You know, like that's a very interesting way to think about things. Like, I'm gonna pick DeepSeek harness because I anticipate in 5 years the world will be such that I should have picked this. Right? It's an interesting question because it's like, well, you could look at this so many different ways. Like, if I just pick Claude and I expect to sort of accelerate past everybody because they're just solving all those problems, that becomes a strategic sort of mindset. So how are all of you guys looking long term? Are you like, I only care about at any point in time, 20 years out or 10 years out, like, do I own this stuff or not? Are you thinking 3 years out? Are you thinking I don't care? Like, never crossed your mind? I don't know. This is an interesting thing. Let's start, okay, everybody. So we'll go right to left, yeah.
Just something very fast. I say 2 years or 5 years, but it can happen tomorrow in the morning.
Right, right, exactly.
I'm not planning on 2 years because I don't know what the AI is. So
Yeah.
maybe in 6 months there will be one model with a completely kind of way to use AI. But the thing is, I want to guarantee that what I'm building is not just tomorrow.
You want to guarantee. That's interesting because the decision can be like either I want to guarantee or I just want to maximize my velocity. I want to maximize all this stuff because it's going to change anyways. But I don't know. That's my calculus. Who else? Yep.
In terms of long-term strategy, I would focus on the knowledge and the principles of how a harness works, and not necessarily on the tool. Like, this time it's DeepSeek harness, and 2 months later it will be another cool new tool. It's not about that. Focus on the actual understanding of what happens underneath, how an agent works, how a harness works. If you want to go deeper into it, like what is loop engineering and path engineering, and how can it serve you or why you don't need it,
Yeah.
and what kind of things a harness can do, like what kind of hooks you can use for your benefit.
This is like,
What kind of, we'll go into it's like when you learn programming, it's not about the syntax.
Yeah.
It's
the
more like to understand
constructs, it's the
concepts,
primitives.
understand classes and loops and arrays and all this stuff.
yeah.
And then you switch to another programming language. It doesn't matter. It's the same stuff. It's just you get into the mindset. So harnesses, I think, is the same. You get into the mindset of what kind of tools you have, what kind of things you can do, how you can improve your workflow, and then when you migrate to another harness, it will be the same stuff with different syntax or names.
Do you think do you think we're going to see more harnesses in the future or less? Do you think we're going to see more sort of novel technological innovations in the harness space, and therefore it's just a never-ending game of things changing?
I think it's not about either less or more. It's about the engineering is going to get better, and it's going to become something that's a bit more streamlined. There is this way of doing things instead of like 100 different ways of doing things, and there is going to be a higher level and a lower level. So it's like higher level would be like the end user, non-technical, just prompt and get something out of it, and the middle level would be like a more technical user. Oh, you have this configuration and settings and hooks and can do stuff, and super low level would be you have this programmable harness like DeepSeek harness, and you can replace and reprogram every little part of it, including the agent loop itself. So you have these different levels that you can work at, but maybe it's going to be a bit more converged. So, you know, instead of 100 different ways to do the same thing, there might be some one or two industry standards.
Maybe, or the models themselves learn how to adjust their own harness over time, and then this whole harness thing becomes like a non thing, a thing you just don't think about, because the models have learned at some point, and we've all moved on to whatever the next.
Well, that's the goal of the companies, right? So like OpenAI,
Right.
like 3 months ago, they said, you know, 5.6 would not even need a harness. Like this is internally in the team, they were like, we can have less, and we don't need guardrails. Well, I think that was a big eye opener when they released it, and they said, oh shit, we need a harness. We need to add 8% to the prompt every week, because you know, I think the reality people are setting into now is different from what the teams are thinking. But I think there's also this displacement between the team that's actually training the models and building versus the teams that are executing on the harness. Because they're the AGI peeled guys that don't really understand how things are being built. And they're like, we need less harness. And then they're like, oh, actually we need more harness now. Right? Like that's been the Codex's whole thing, was they released 5.6, they cut a bunch of the harness out, and then they've just added even more and more and more now. And like it's almost like they've had this weird, like, I don't know, if you know multi-agent v2 and all the internals of the code, they didn't touch it for a bit because they were like hoping that they wouldn't need to. And then I think last week they decided, well, we got to add all this stuff back in. And they added a bunch more to the code. It's almost doubled the size of the harness. So I think 6 is not going to be that exciting from like their expectations of the needing less harness. But I think that everyone believed, and everybody wants there to be less harness. But when you have a nuclear weapon, more capability sometimes means more guardrails until you actually have AGI, maybe.
I'm so curious, you can put a harness on the other side of the endpoint. Nobody's going to know. Anyways, I won't go into that. But yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if they don't already have something, like, you know,
That's what I'm
it's all
thinking.
being filtered through anyways.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah. So it kind of, like we don't talk about models anymore. There's so many coming out, it's so often, we don't care. Harness, I wonder if it's going to turn into the same shit, and therefore we don't care.
So I've been using Cursor for a long time, and it's basically built up its harness over the years now, I guess. And I've just noticed how I can switch between models easily, and it feels very consistent, because I think the harness that Cursor has developed without me really understanding what's going on just really does a great job of filtering things for the models.
Yeah.
I guess is the way I think about it. It's a filter.
Well, it's basically just, you know, a harness at the end of the day is big prompt, some guardrails that limit the agent, and then here's some tools that it injects into the agent. And so you mentioned earlier, like the bigger a model has for its context, the better it is at working on any new harness. It's one of the reasons like Codex is a little bit like sucky on some other harnesses because it's got a very limited window, or it did. They changed it this week. You can go up to 1 million now. Is anyone using that?
Oh, there was a whole drama on this, wasn't there?
Oh yeah, that was because the thing is, if you try to use it, it's going to 2x. It goes up to like 4.5x your usage.
It was considered not recommended, honestly.
Yeah. Well, their team doesn't recommend it, but they enabled us to use it. Actually, I had to Technium rolled it out immediately to every fucking user, and I had to like literally like be like, no, we got to roll this back, and I had to like put it because he was like, they're not going to charge us. Like, no, like literally, it's all like we just increased our user cost by 4.5x. Like, and then we had users complaining on the Hermes side. They're like, I just wiped out my entire usage in like 5 minutes. So.
Oh, that's an interesting one too.
It's the same problem we had when Codex first came out, because I mean, if you 2x plus fast mode, plus if you try to inject a bunch of history in and then it compacts it from a thread, like if you immediately, then all of a sudden you might spend, I think I tested it out and I spent like 29 million tokens from just testing one thread, because it was like, let me load everything in, recompact it down multiple times over, it just broke. And so we had to roll it back.
Yeah, so when we talk about harness, we sometimes focus too much on our coding harness, our codex, or code, Hermes, that's our personal stuff. There are a lot of harnesses that run in production. I mean, all those production agents that run on the cloud and do something for you, like a very defined thing. They're not just, you know, a model that you give tools to and, you know, just do something and give results. They have some very, very specified workflows, graph-based workflows. They usually base their stuff on line graph, which is the low-level framework. And it's a different kind of harness. I mean, this is not the place where you just let a model like GPT 5.6 so, hey, just give me the result and you have the tools, just do something for me. It's very, very, very guardrail and specified, and it has nodes, and it has different agents doing different things. So if you look at any agentic product that's running in the cloud and doing a very specific workflow, like for example, Perplexity. I love Perplexity, I use it a lot. It's a research tool, it's a search tool, and what happens there under the hood is there are a lot of steps involved. I mean, if you give it a prompt, you get results. There are a lot of different steps involved, and they build their own harness, which is this. I think this is a good example of graph engineering. This is like a strict workflow. I mean, you start from here, you have a state, you do this, and then you pass the result to another agent, and then you take this and you create this query, and then you summarize this result, and then you summarize this result. It has this huge workflow that.
Are you using the Perplexity as a harness for searches and models, or are you using it as an API search?
It's more like for my personal research, so it's kind of like whenever I'm brainstorming about something, okay.
We're looking up the Tinder stuff?
So what?
We're looking up the Tinder stuff?
Tinder. Yeah, that's how I found the Tinder bots, by the way. Yeah, so whenever I want to search something, like how do you do that? And I mean, I would use it, and it would do this whole multi-level research and give me back a bunch of results. It can be Reddit posts or websites, and it's summarizing it very well. But anyway, what my point was that harness is much more than the thing we're talking about here, the coding harnesses.
Sure.
There are many different kinds of harnesses.
Yeah.
And you cannot, in certain use cases like this, you cannot just drop out the harness. You cannot just let the model just give you the result, because models are completely non-deterministic. If you have a product,
Today,
paying users, and you want users to get a good, consistent result every time, you cannot trust any model to just do it for you. Yeah. You have to manage it. You have to micromanage it.
I have a question. Why are you using Perplexity versus like Exa or Brave Search or like skilled searches like Last 30 Days or
It's just
HRH?
in the products. It's not. I mean, they're good as well. Except, actually, for API, I know what you mean. For APIs, for like
all you're doing
search tool inside my coding harness, I have the Vili right now. It's another one. Exa is another good one. There are a bunch of them. This is a different use case. You're describing maybe the search tool for a coding harness. So you know, whenever it wants to search something, it calls the MCP or whatever, it gets some results. So that's one thing. Perplexity is like, for my use case, I mean, I have the app installed. It's a nice UI. It gives me the results. When I'm walking around and I think about something and I want to get some result, that's what I'm using. It's a different use case. It's more like human facing compared to API facing.
Yeah, give me an example of time using the Perplexity API.
Can you speak up a bit?
Oh, yeah. I'm using Perplexity API just for searches for agents, and it does filters very well, the SEO, optimize shit.
Oh, the jump.
All the jump and like summarizes things so that the agent does it reasoning on top of that. You can use only sonar model is like 1 cent per query, so like you can use as many as you can. Not sure what it's also.
I've thought about it in the sense of like, does Perplexity you're like getting access to all of the APIs, LegalZoom, instead of having to load them all in. So I mean, it makes sense for me when you want to search
So I
stuff.
also have like a secure access to like for myself, so I do all the searches, but like Perplexity is good as easily.
Yeah. Also, I think Codex, they cut out Reddit this week. So that no longer is a result because everybody was cheating. And also Reddit went private, so you have to log into Reddit to do stuff for certain things now. So, but because they're having the same problem. People are switching to Perplexity and stuff because ChatGPT results are getting lots of junk, right? Like lots of spam and.
It's hallucinating, by the way. ChatGPT is more likely to hallucinate. One thing I like about Perplexity, they build the product so well with all this micromanagement and harnessing in order to reduce hallucinations. So that's one proof that even for the strongest models, you need micromanagement, you need guardrails to just constrain them to. All right, you got this info, you got this paragraph. Like for every single sentence you write, you have to attach it to a source. Otherwise, it's a hallucination.
You can also turn off sources too, right? So you can actually like just cut out whole sources you don't want. You can't do that with Codex and stuff either. So
I'm not sure what Codex is doing. I just know that under the hood it has its own web search and it's working for my coding harness. But I know that Perplexity could put a lot of focus on this reducing hallucination. So I tend to trust it as a human. Like when I want to search something and rely on something, I tend to trust Perplexity because I know their mechanism is quite reliable. So they just do it well.
I'm interested in like leading from what you said. How do we control for the unreliability of LLMs? Right? LLMs are probabilistic by nature. They will always hallucinate. That's just the loss of compression.
Sure.
When you train on that. And so, as you were saying about complexity, I'm not familiar with their system explicitly, but yeah, this idea of forcing agent output into a particularly well-defined structure and making sure that there's enough of a record of thinking how it arrived at those conclusions and can it provide reliable data sources for that. And that's something that I think is particularly important in mission-critical scenarios where there's regulatory requirements. If a company does something, they have to be able to explain what the rationale about that is. And so I'm kind of really interested in looking at things like category theory and formal verification and how it can formally express constraints and how the agents work within a very well-defined framework.
Yeah, so there are techniques
rather
for
than
that.
just,
I can elaborate. There are techniques for that. That's proper agentic engineering. I mean, I would say there is a distinction. There is agentic engineering, that's like what we're doing using coding agent. There's engineering an agent, like how do you engineer an agent that does something really, really well. So that's where you need harnessing. That's where you need graph-based workflows. That's where you might need like a second LLM as a judge to review what the first LLM did. You might need some deterministic logic inside a graph that takes what the LLM said, takes some very structured output, and does something with it, like some very deterministic things. For example, if you want it to be reliable and touch a source and verify the source, you might want it to, in the structured output, to give you the exact line as it is that it referred to, then do some deterministic search and retrieval to find that line in the source, and then you verify that it indeed dependent on lines of the source. It's not some hallucinated paragraph that it invented. So this is just engineering, and it's never 100%. By the way, you cannot get an agent 100%. You just have evals on top of evals on top of evals, and you get it to like 99%, and you get it good enough for most users, but it's never 100%.
This is the thing I think is really important, is that in the hardness part, I think for AI to be useful, this point, the reliability part, is the most important. This is about liability and reliability. So in other words, you can have a general harness that we have, and it gets you like, holy shit, it's magic. It gets you like 80% there, 90% there. But guess what? You need to be at 98% for it to be economically viable for someone to have a customer, right? To be mission critical or whatever that might be. And the amount of energy that it's going to take to get like the 5%, 3% more, it gets increasingly difficult, right? And that's why that's your
when you
moat.
get to the upper level, where you get like from 98 to 99 to 99.99, it's
Yes.
more and more optimization.
Yes.
It's better tuned data sets, better evals.
Yes.
You can, if you want to automate the whole thing, you can let a good
That's right.
agent automatically.
And if you don't have the capex for it and the stomach for it, guess what? You're out, and I'm going to win, right?
It takes engineering to do that. This is something you have to.
Yeah. So I think that's a fundamental principle of ecosystems and of business. That's not going away. So therefore, harnesses will not go away. What I think is really interesting, and I put a question in here right now, is I can see a huge gap. There is no general system for eval and reliability. Okay,
Yeah, there's no standard.
It's no standard, and not only that, it's a vacuum as far as I can tell, relative to all the other shit that you're like, oh, I'm competing, like, this repo with that repo is competing on this or that. And I'm like, okay, evals, crickets, for me, there's nothing there. And that's really interesting, because it's, to me, in my view, fundamentally the most important thing to make this actually work. In terms of beyond us as early adopters, to actually have an integration, it's all about the evals, and it's not even evals, it's about
verification loop. was saying about.
Yeah, like can you guarantee, you know, for liability? I got a lawyer in the room. How much is it gonna fuck up? How much is it gonna cost it to fuck up? You know, what percentage it is, and can we have insurance on that? Like, you know, that's the bottom line. Yeah.
There's also
And we're
reliability
so far
around,
away from
like,
that tooling.
You have two employees, they ask the same exact agent, same prompt.
Yeah.
You can get completely different results. Even though they have everything the same, right? One agent can completely deliver, and there's that 10% chance the agent goes completely off the rails on the other hand because it did the wrong tool call, and it just, you know, it degrades.
It's interesting that we're asking AI to do things we never ask humans to do, to be 98% accurate.
Well, no, it's just like the human is doing this thing right now. I can replace them, right? So I can replace my workforce, but they have to be at least at the level of accuracy, right, and reliability that my human force is at, because they're insured. That's my standard, right? And if you can't meet that from the AI perspective, then you're not replacing anything.
So I guess my question is, what is the human standard for reliability that people expect?
I think
my opinion was that this last step.
I think part of the problem there is that people focusing on the non-deterministic agent and not also leveling up on both sides the deterministic systems. So when we're talking about these lane graph workflows, or we're talking about microservices, or we're talking about micro apps, that's like in the human world. Do I have two knives and two humans, and the two humans using exactly the same knife, they do things differently. But if you give them a machine, a processing machine, and they're just going to press a button, you'll get the same output each time. And we keep thinking of it as better evals, better AI. Well, why aren't we building the micro apps at the same rate that we're developing the agents? Because it's just like the real world. We have tools and we have non-deterministic people. Agents are the same thing.
Building what? Sorry.
Tools, software, micro apps, microservices, APIs, stuff like that. And then you can rely on just a really intelligent thinking model to go use the right tool. Something like that.
That's why harnesses can never go away.
That's why harnesses are important, because harnesses promote composability. Like if we get back to primitives, well, what are primitives? They're just the ability to put things together in composable fashion. That's where you get intelligence and scalability, not by making a smarter monolith, but by making a more flexible harness.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Well, no.
Okay. Oh yeah.
I don't know if we lost it now.
Go for it. Shoot.
You were talking about replacing some humans with some AI, and my impression for a long while was the business who employs the AI, or the customer who consumes the AI, is a human. So my opinion was, and please correct me if I'm wrong, you were doing this with humans and some instruments, and you have the AI who replaces them humans, but the last thing will always be a human. So my impression all the time when we were talking is that this tool eventually will always be a combination of this technology and humans at the peak. So the last 2%, 0.2% are ever better humans staying at the top. Like you see the chess players, at the beginning they could easily win against each kind of software. Now any kind of chess software, the good ones, is winning them. But if you were selling this to an end customer, you would combine a top chess player with a chess software. So this will always be better at just the chess software and the human. So we have the experience of decades there, that at the end, the best product is going to prevail on the market is going to be a combination. No?
Maybe. Some people, it's like, I want to replace my workforce.
I saw
You know,
that.
I want to automate my workforce.
They will be forced to. I've seen this with decades ago. There wasn't this software who was calculating probabilities of a nuclear power plant to fail. We need this from the law in order to get a nuclear power plant working, to calculate the probability of an accident less than once in 5,000 years.
Yes.
So when this software compete on the market decades ago now, what they do, they get some problems and they get in a room and this software compete. And I remember that the claim that the winner was faking because he allowed his engineer to intervene in the process. So it was obvious that if you allow humans with stop software, with no human could calculate its probabilities back end, that if you allow the engineers to intervene with the product, because they had this better interaction with the real world, exactly what happens now with AI, they would prevail against the best software. So that's my impression. That at the end of the day, we will always have ever less humans putting the last step to the software.
Human in the loop. That's where our jobs are. That's why we're getting paid. For those.
That's why we still exist.
This example of him is that is limited by the developers. So him is like state of AI system to do stuff, but right now it's limited by the people. So if the same thing with the colleagues, you have like stupid mistakes because the people are unqualified to do the job. So if the company that are like on the edge are limited by the people, that we should assume that we in our business are also limited by us and our workforce.
So you said something I think is really interesting. You said we want to replace our workforces. Whenever I ask someone what they actually mean by that, they actually don't really mean that. They mean automate the workforce and not talk to it at all. Because almost everyone I talk to when they have frustration with the AI, it's like, I asked it for I gave it one sentence. It didn't build me a whole enterprise system, right? And it's the same problem we've had people have with agencies. Like they didn't train it, they didn't give it any information, right? So the results, you asked it for a presentation, yeah, it gave you a presentation, but you didn't actually train it. Just like a human being, you have to train and do it. And so there's this problem I see inherently that everyone has that no one's really solved yet, but it's one of the reasons people liked Hermes originally was that it skillified stuff, it captured stuff. No one's really solved this because it's partly a context problem, partly a compaction problem, but it's really how do I actually spend time with the model, distill my knowledge and what I want really down, and that be a native feature on any harness, right? Whether it's like a package of workflows or whatever, so I can sit there and spend the 1 hour that I would normally train a regular employee into exactly how I want, right? So then I build it, it takes an eval, a benchmark around that, and then any agent or any model can then just take that and do it the way I want it, right? Because I find people inherently don't want to talk to the model about it and build out that workflow system, and because I do a lot of customers, right, daily, and they just, once I train them how to build a couple workflows, they're just magical. But still, most complaints are the model didn't give me what I wanted, and then I look and see the prompts and I see what they did. It's like, well, you didn't tell it really what you wanted. Yeah. You didn't scope it out.
That's right. And most people on the consumer side don't want to do that, right?
They don't want to scope it out.
We're the weirdest people in the sense that we want to build our own tools, right? And you're at the extreme level of building, it's like a carpenter. He makes every single tool that he uses first before. That's a long going practice, right? And that means that you as a carpenter can make highly exceptional stuff because your whole tool set is about your whole ethos and your whole way, right? It's like you, right? It's an impression of you. And that is, I think, something I think is amazing. But most people don't want that. And on the consumer side, that's why no one has cracked AI for consumers, because actually that's what AI is really amazing for. That's why we're in love with it and we're mesmerized by it. But consumers don't want that. They just want this thing where they just say what you just said.
They give it one sentence,
yeah, and then
why am I not rich?
Exactly.
Right? Why didn't you trade for me? That's fucking monkeys hitting a button.
That's right.
So, and if you do solve for that, then the human, it's one of the, Hermes hit that one niche, and I would ask enough questions, it automatically skillify stuff, and that was enough to make most consumers really like it.
Yes.
But it doesn't go even further than that to what you really need to really train an employee. If you're going to build an agent, you need to probably spend an hour defining everything with the agent, and almost have a throwaway agent that is just designed to create specs, workflows, and evals for that agent and those things you need. But we don't want to put the time in anymore because we've gotten so much dopamine from, you can just do it all automatically.
That's right.
Right?
One problem is the models are aligned and trained to be workers. Whatever you tell them, they are basically designed to build that for you. So if you don't explain your problem or whatever you want out of it correctly, you're gonna get incorrect answer. So it's never asking you hang on, I don't know, because if you were to buy this sub-service somebody who's a professional company, that company would ask you, what exactly do you want? You would come to me and ask me questions, but what is it that you're trying to build? The models never do that. So there's that's the fundamental problem. People are talking to model like they are professionals, but they're not. They're just workers. They're your employees that are supposed to do whatever you tell them. So that's the fundamental issue there.
But you can have the model ask you questions, but then people don't want it to ask them questions. Like,
Yeah.
it's just this weird dynamic because, like, you know you're talking to the model. I think it's a real big problem with, like I don't think, so I have a question quick. How many people are still using Claude Code? Okay, cool. I noticed the last 2 weeks people have been on the internet and been like, Claude Code sucks. I still use it. So I haven't had any problems with it. But I like Claude because I can actually talk to it, conversate, and it's not draining. We've talked about this before, like, Codex is really draining to talk to. When it asks questions, anything like that, it's like talking to, I mean, you know you're talking to a machine, but it feels dumb. Whereas Claude, I'm going to talk to it for hours, go through specking architecture, and it's great, right? It's not draining to me, like mental or anything like that.
The wall of text is arguably draining as hell.
But I solved that on my end. So specifically, I don't like, so on my end, on Harness side, like Claude Code, I have no output styles, and then I basically tell it not to use any thinking tokens on converting its reasoning to any output style, and I removed it from the prompt too. So I read, it basically says the user reads the thinking reasoning and do not output or change from that. So everything is just conversational. So it knows that I read the reasoning, and when it comes back and responds, it's just conversational. And so I never get the output blocks anymore. And it saves me like 50% of my tokens because, I mean, it's a real big waste. Like it literally, it spends this, like the tokens on reasoning, it already has what it's going to say, and then it then converts it again to another output style and uses the same tokens again to
It's just very
translate
suggestive, right? Because we never get to control the thinking token allocation. The model is actually
the model does.
Yeah, it's the model. You
But
can cap it or set a. I don't know if you can set a minimum. You can set a cap as an environment variable, but it's definitely up to the model to determine if he wants to do 100 or 32,000.
Just in the last release, like 6 hours ago or something, they added a new output style, concise. I haven't tried it
Oh
yet.
yeah, I was at the video with it last week.
Concise actually has been there
it's been a bit.
for a long time, and arguably, so when they put that whole announcement up, I thought this is going to make things worse because I used it when it came out a long time ago, and what it tries to do, I believe, is make the model be even more forward moving, and sort of like. Like just take more actions rather than take less actions, which I don't know if that's what people want. I feel like that's going to backfire.
I haven't noticed that at all. It's just the output, just like one sentence. The basic output. So as it's doing stuff.
Do you have it on?
Yeah.
You're using concise.
They updated concise.
Oh, so they.
It's updated. So it actually changes the system prompt. The system prompt has a default output style. That's what everyone complains about.
So
like if you just edit the
whole,
system
like,
prompt.
Before you'd have this really like esoteric, it would say like weird shit to explain something you can do in one sentence, and now it just outputs a single sentence.
Yeah.
So even as it's doing tool calls, as it's executing tasks, it just outputs these like 5 or 6 word sentences.
Sure.
The problem you're talking about is the previous concise was it would try to condense. It would so you have its reasoning, and then you have its output, and then it would then try to condense that down, and you end up in the weird Claudish, where like a word, it's like, oh, like I'm trying to save tokens, and so you end up with a weird word to mean like 5 things to try to condense it down. The new concise just changes the output style and changes the system prompt. Because the system prompt has a long list of like how the default output is.
Because like Claude started doing this weird thing where it would overcomplicate some like really simple thing, like you need to publish this npm or whatever to like this really long, and this is why, and like I think you should, I have to be honest with you, I did this for it's like you should just do that.
Right.
Yeah. So I was like, let me switch to that. I kind of like it so far. We'll see.
I always felt like the output from Claude was like you would just want to key in on specific pieces of what it's saying, because it felt like Claude was intentionally giving you, this is something I wrote in the WhatsApp group, like it's giving you supporting evidence. I don't even think it's meant for you to read. I think it's meant for sub-agents to read, because Claude seems to be exceptional at delegating to other agents. And so like you only needed just a few, you just needed like questions to answer and what was done. Like it's just very small pieces. And if you were curious, like you wanted more information, you would have to look at the evidence string that it would provide. So I always felt like Claude was sort of talking in data flow. not English. It was never about English at all. It was literally it was meant to be some sort of structured output that just happened to look different on every fucking turn.
You're using Fable, right, or Opus?
I'm full-blown Fable and
Okay.
Opus 5. I use Fable and Opus 5 on everything.
Because I find that I still have problems with Opus 5. It's the same issue. I don't have problems with Fable at all. I don't even talk to Opus 5 anymore. But
Yeah, for me, Opus 5 is all about, it's pure delegation. Like, Fable, tell Opus 5, or if I will open up an Opus 5 session, I know that I'm like not trying to read anything from this thing, and I need it to sort of distribute work to other agents or sub-agents.
try, when you get home, ask it about checking, well, try the new concise.
Yeah,
and then also look at the system problem, just like remove any output styles. I mean, I highly recommend just reading the reasoning and then just like not converting and wasting tokens on like it's just conversational natural flow. Like, I don't like any of the output styles personally, but I mean, I literally get 1 or 2 sentences back, and because I've removed the output style from the system prompt, and I just read the reasoning. I get 2 or 3 sentences, but it moves the TPS when you remove that is so high, it literally just flies through stuff, and I honestly can't keep up sometimes with how much work it goes through.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Because I'm saving a whole step of having to do outputs.
This is the thing about like, so if we go back a year ago, I remember reading, okay, look, I remember a year ago, the way I operated was like, you have the harness open, and I'm reading the tool calls that the model's doing, and I'm just fucking watching it. Like, that was my job, like I'm just here to watch this thing. And as 4.6 came along, I realized that this is not gonna scale. Like, you can't sit here and read all this shit. It makes no sense. It looks like we're heading towards a world where this thing calls 30 fucking tools, or combines a bunch of programmatic capabilities, for example, dynamic scripting. And it's like, well, this is not gonna work. So I've moved away from trying to look at all what's happening between the final output and prompt. I feel like it's almost a waste of effort. Or it's not a waste, it's allocated towards more like, you start to heading towards your world. Like, that's where it becomes more important. So I don't know what to do with that. It's just an observation I've had.
It's weird because how I use Codex and how I use Cloud Code are completely different dichotomies. So
I imagine.
And like the token per second, the speed is just.
Yeah. Any other topics anybody wants to bring up? Just shout it out.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I just tried using Cloud Code CLI for the first time in probably a few weeks, and it said I had to log in again. So I tried to log in, but I said decline when it asked me if I wanted to connect it to GitHub, because I don't want it messing with GitHub. I don't want it using API tokens on my behalf. And I was unable to use the CLI. It was as if NetDrocker was refusing to allow me to use the CLI unless I accepted their terms. Did I do something wrong, or is that?
Wait, so were you trying to use GitHub without a GitHub connection? Because GitHub now limits, like there's massive rate limits on GitHub unless you plug in GitHub. So if you try to access GitHub at all, they literally will rate limit the agent reviewing stuff, clicking stuff on the side, anything. So because GitHub's having all those issues right now. And so if you don't have GitHub plugged in or the CLI, GH, or anything like that stuff, the free, especially abroad, because people are scraping to feed DeepSeek, things like that, all the open source projects, GitHub is literally just really rate limiting the shit out of people. So was it something like that? Like, was the agent trying to access GitHub without login? Like to read?
Yes.
It's hard to believe that GitHub would be required, because if you worked at a company with like Bitbucket or GitLab or
No, it wasn't. I specifically asked it to look at the.
He wanted to read something.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, if you're not connected to GitHub and you try to access GitHub, agents are basically cut off. Like they're so.
But it wouldn't help to connect on the GH command line, would it? I mean, or ask it to use that.
Yeah.
Right.
Wait, is your issue that you just create limitations around GitHub? Or you don't want it? What do you not want it doing in GitHub?
I don't want it to. It says if you do this, then it'll use more tokens. It'll be able to modify stuff on GitHub.
Oh, you can. So you can create, like when you give it access to GitHub, you use the GH CLI and then create a very limited token that can only read only.
PAT.
Yeah. So like a very read only. And if you're afraid, it's not likely to do anything without your permission, especially in Cloud Code. But if you are nervous about that, you can create a read only token. Everything you do with GitHub is all about permission basis. Even if you do GitHub direct connection, it's going to tell you what permissions you can give it. You can just say you can only read these repositories. But at the end of the day, you're trying to read other repositories, right, and do other things. And so that's going to give it access to do that just from the API side. It's like a trusted.
So I create the token on the command line,
Yep.
GH, and then how do I use that token from the authentication and cloud code?
Oh, you just in Agents MD use GH CLI. So when I tell you like for GitHub use GH CLI, just tell it that.
Oh, but then everything I do with GH is read-only, not just the cloud access.
Well, you can create another GH if you wanted to. Honestly, it's not really a problem. I wouldn't worry about it. I would just connect to GitHub. And also, if you're going to need to use GitHub as some part in your workflow, right? It's like right.
Well, I don't use cloud code that much. I mean, I'm using several different harnesses, and I don't really.
So when you do log into GitHub with Cloud Code, it's going to take you to the GitHub Permission Center. Like it's not just going to magically log in. As soon as you click log in, it's going to go to GitHub. You're going to choose your permissions there, and you can then say Cloud Code only has read-only permissions of these repositories.
So I didn't get that far.
You didn't get that far because you didn't click it. But if you click it, I promise you, it'll take you to GitHub, and GitHub will take you through the 30 tiers of configuration for permissions.
Thank you.
So one thing that happened to me this week that I just want to share that occurred to me this week was I've been using that Buzz platform, the thing that came out on August 2nd from Block. Been using it a lot more, and I am becoming more and more convinced that that sort of concept of like agents in the room with the humans is undoubtedly incredibly powerful. It's like, and it's so powerful. Like my take on it is like, I don't even want to use WhatsApp anymore. I don't want to use Line. I don't want to use any of these like old school pre-AI communication apps.
You should explain how Thomas came in there and brought his agent to fix
Oh, sure, yeah.
something.
So we have like, I set up this Buzz server for this community just as a like, I just wanted to test out the Buzz thing. I was like, I don't know, maybe it sucks, maybe it's great. And I know a bunch of you joined, and then it had nothing but bugs on that day it came out, which there still are bugs. And so this week we were doing something. So it's Robert's been in the room with myself, Carlin, Ian has taken a look, and some other people have just like kind of peeked in. And there was like a bug going on, and one of the guys from the Buzz team like entered into the server. I sent him an invite, and then he just came in, summoned his fucking agent, and was like, help this guy. And then like, it did some shit, and then he left. And I was like, whoa, that was like, it was the coolest fucking thing to see because like his agent had like a name, it was called like Moneypenny. And it came in and it did this help, and then like I had some other questions, and I think just like he used the @ sign with the agent, and he just added his agent. He's like, talk to him. And you could see the histories in the chat. It's like saved in the relay.
Did you ask for admin permissions?
Well, he told me that I need to like give admin permissions to my agent, or that I can.
Yeah.
And it was an interesting journey. I had admin permissions already. I just didn't know how to use it. Partly because the Buzz interface at that moment like just wasn't fucking clear on how to do stuff. But he sort of pointed out something that became enlightening for me, which was that whole platform, and this is what I think is super important about this, is made for agents to operate in, not not so much humans. Like there's actions that are not even available to the humans, but the agents can do it. And I think this is just way better. This is really, really good because it makes the agents incredibly powerful, using the platform incredibly powerful. Anyways, the point is that I'm like, when I see the WhatsApp group chat and I see all these discussions and I see all this like data being dropped in, I see comments, and I'm like, I would love to sort of process all that stuff and, have my agent come in.
Yeah, okay, but can you be more specific, like, sure, processing the whole chat and all that, like you have your own digestion for this, but what else? And just, more use cases.
Can we show it on the screen?
A good example is like, so we're doing it internally for our company. Nick's helping us with it. We have it on a private relay instead of the community one. And like the whole team's in there, right? And we can have agents that are, from our control also just our own in the system to do things. So we have all this observability between what everyone on the team is doing, what they're doing with their agents. We have an engineering agent that can execute code in our system and deal with linear issues and stuff like that. And now it can be fully observed by the whole team, so everyone knows what's going on, and observed by their agents, so they can just ask their agents, hey, like what did we actually deploy this week? Or, you know, what did so and so work on? So it's really good for like an observability point of view inside of a company where you got 5, 6, 7 people all doing all these different things, and you don't know what's going on at any moment sometimes. It also eliminates the need for like stand-ups and, you know, having to, you know, jump, people are DMing each other, oh, I made this update or I did this thing. The whole idea is we do it all in public now. So we use all public, no DMs, everything's in the channel, so all of our agents can access all the data that's running through.
I mean, then the typical agents would be like, one would be your context agent, probably for all the company context, and then there would be, like you said, like engineering.
Yeah, so we have 2 company agents. One is the company context, right? So it's the one that everyone can access. So it's like our God agent. It's like @me or @Claude, like we have @Kyber. And we have an engineering agent. And those are the 2 main ones. And then everyone else can bring their own individual agents to do stuff that they want to do. They can share or not share if they want. So like you can, you know, through the control plane, you can say like, this person's allowed to talk to my agent or this person's not. Yeah, so it works. It's like
Is there a permission layer in Buzz?
There's a small permission layer where it's like can only talk to you.
Only respond to you.
Only respond to you. You can have it respond to anyone or only specific people. We have agents. Our specific agents live in outside of Buzz, their own VMs, and we have a control plane in between, so we manage it that way. So you can do it either way.
There's a problem I know all of you are having, and maybe you don't see it as a problem, where it's like stuff happens in, I don't know, let's say the WhatsApp group or in your own company comms, and you have to like take that shit and go to your one-on-one instance with your AI and do something. And it's like a form of copy and paste. You don't realize how annoying this is until you sort of go in Buzz and you're like, put your agent, and just like, I mean, we've been doing this like the whole week, and it's like, this is so much better. Like, I'm serious about, like, I do not want to open WhatsApp. It feels so prehistoric to me.
Is Buzz using singular sessions for every thread, whole channel? Like, how does that? Because one of the problems I ran into on Discord is, like, Discord is highly customizable, but it is a fucking nightmare for managing sessions, threads, permissions, allow list. Like, Discord has.
See, this is a good point. Like, when I look at Discord and Slack, I look at a piece of legacy. It's a legacy architecture made for a world that made sense at that time. But in this Buzz architecture and this relay thing they got going on, the agent has so they give the agent the tools needed to query and scan the entire relay. It's like so open and available to them that you're like, I'm just seeing, what's the term here, where there's like latent space and you're finding new capabilities that agents can do that you never would have thought. Like, that is immediately merging to me. Every single day I use this thing, I'm like, holy shit, like.
But isn't that part of that from like the absolute trust layer, right? So like Discord and Slack, you can give the absolute, like one of the problems with Discord and Slack is that there's like 5 layers of trust, permissions, tool list. God, every time you add a skill, you need to, in Discord, say, okay, this agent can use this skill with this user, right? It's the enterprise most level. But like,
that all sounds so like just too much work, and that's not a world I want to live in. The world I want to live in is like set up and go.
I agree. I'm just saying, but the trust level works between you two. It doesn't scale when you have 30 employees and an employee knows you're going to fire him. He goes in and says, hey, Ian's bot, destroy the entire thing and delete everything.
So this is why we have like, so in our company, like we have a control plane for it, right? That I can revoke access instantly to anyone to do anything. we have very granular controls about what you can ask, what it can do.
So you've rebuilt that layer on top of it.
Yeah,
Outside of
it's just
that's outside of Buzz.
Outside of Buzz.
Yeah, it's outside of Buzz because, like I said, our agents live in a VM outside of Buzz,
Yeah.
and we just invite them as actual members to the, which is actually the methodology that Buzz prefers. Like they have where you can build agents internally, which is basically Claude or Hermes you can attach internally as an agent, but the methodology from their core is to bring them in as actual members.
Right.
So then you still have full control of your what control plane access you give to a single person or anybody. So it's like what you said is I manage the agent, I manage the agent's skills and its architecture and every piece of it, and then I bring it in as a member, rather than in Discord where you gotta
you have to do that and then 3 times.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
you have the Discord permissions, you have the agent permissions, right? It's very enterprise, and so like I have teams that want that because they need that level of.
Ours is too, but
Yeah.
it doesn't have to happen at the Discord layer.
Yeah.
It's better if you can do it at the agent layer rather than inside of whatever.
Well, I had to add a
Because the
separate
cool-
control plane
the
too.
cool thing
So.
with this is like we're migrating from Slack to Buzz.
Yeah.
And then we also have our linear and our GitHub. And our control plane actually manages the agent access between all of them. So we can maintain, everyone's Slack access until we get the whole migration complete and we're fully on Buzz. So when I change a permission for an agent, it's like it'll change it on Slack, it'll also change it on Buzz from this layer rather than having to go into 4 different
Systems.
things and say, GitHub, you're only allowed to tag an agent for this, and linear, only this person can do that. It's like, that's way too much.
Is Buzz to the point now? Because there were like a couple weeks ago, I looked at it, and then like the reason I'm asking all these questions is 'cause I'm thinking about moving some of my customers onto it because it's a fucking nightmare managing Discord for like 100 employees, right? So they're always like, oh, it's the matter, like the level of admin permissions is crazy, and then we have a control plane too that controls everything anyways.
Yeah.
And so if I
grab that and invite them in through that membership, it's great.
so okay, it's working really well then. So because that's
So yeah, considering that it's a 3-week-old product,
yeah.
I mean, of course it has its hiccups, but it's 3 weeks old.
So an interesting question would be, if I compare like the quality of the discussion we had today versus the quality of the discussion in WhatsApp, it's like night and day. And the question
Claude
is,
bad. Another code. I was just making a joke like Claude bad. This harness bad. This good.
so the question is, can we somehow level up the conversation in Buzz to be more like this?
And I think
like
it
what
is.
we're doing in WhatsApp.
Like right now, Buzz is pretty highly technical compared to what we got going on in WhatsApp.
Yeah.
There's some other cool layers in Buzz that we've been exploring, right? So there's this whole where the whole the repos managed through the relay. So there's an entire Git repo that's shared.
There's a lot
inside
of powerful
Buzz.
primitives out of Buzz, and I'm